and I want to welcome you all to Registrant Success Stories. Great to have you all here, and hopefully some of the things we have to say will inspire you. And each of our four panelists will introduce themselves. And so why don't we just get started right away. We'll have each of us will speak for about 8 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers. So we'll go in the order. Marty will go first, and then we'll have Melinda, and then Yvonne, and then me. So Marty, would you like to, and then everybody make sure that you are muted if you are not, and please only unmute when it's time to talk. So everybody please mute yourself. And Marty, take it away.
Got it. So again, my name is Marty Weiss. I am a registrant for the last 10 years, author of the book, Thanks for the Infamy. You see it behind me. And why not? Let's jump right into this. As registrants, achieving success in most areas of life is difficult due to restrictions and biases, but it is achievable. That's the mindset that we need to succeed. We have to predicate our success on how we define ourselves to ourselves and how we promote ourselves to others. Are we going to allow the registry and a hateful society to run our lives, or do we work hard to succeed despite those obstacles? When I was arrested, I thought my life was over. So did almost everyone I know. Why do I say almost? Because a select few loved ones, they rushed to my aid. They rushed to help me. I'd reached out to them with honesty before the story broke. I didn't know it then, but that same honesty and openness would open doors later with support that I never thought could exist in a world of public hysteria. It is our job to counter that hysteria, to prove that we are not monsters. We are valuable human beings who made mistakes. Yeah, much easier said than done, but still achievable. I've done it with many by taking accountability for my actions, apologizing, being open and honest, by not backing down from haters. In fact, I often challenge my haters to help victims as much as they promote hate against me. And when they don't help, and you know, haters never do, I accuse them of harming victims by permanently forcing them to remain victims and never giving them a chance to heal. Today, I'm a self-published author who runs alumni events for my alma mater, right here, and recently had a one-on-one private conversation, 5 minutes, with a congressman to tell him the truth about the damage that the registry causes. You should have seen the startled look on his face when I told him about the actual reoffense statistics, how low they are. When I described the registry's horrific harm, young relatives terrorized by bullies when classmates spotted them or spotted a relative on the registry. My own dad's life threatened, an elderly person, vigilantes harming and killing innocent family members for people that they mistake for registrants. A dog shot to death by a deputy who went to the wrong house on a compliance check. Tens of thousands of children on the registry for playing doctor, experimenting, and sharing selfies. I told him about teens that committed suicide because adults threatened them with registration for pulling a harmless prank, like streaking. I asked the congressman, why do we have laws preventing us from obtaining professional licenses that would give us a chance to redeem ourselves and become hardworking, tax-paying citizens? Is government trying to force us into the streets where the only way to survive is to steal? How does that make anyone safe? In just 5 minutes, he learned a lot and hopefully changed his perspective. Now, how did I get that 5 minutes in the first place? Let's go back a decade. Following my release from custody, I needed a job. I applied to canvass and make phone calls for political candidates in elections. I worked super hard and networked with their aides and themselves whenever possible. One congressman who I helped back then, he showed up recently at a public event celebrating queer pride. I seized the opportunity to pull him aside. His top aide recognized me and reintroduced us, and voila, 5 minutes. In retrospect, I'm still surprised that I got that job in the first place, considering the media explosion that followed my case. It just kind of goes to show that no matter how much attention your own case got, many people have short memories. You know, it's also funny. Numerous people in the entertainment industry have constantly tried to exploit my case to gain relevance and profit for themselves. Documentaries, news stories, social media blasts, mostly exaggerated, some of them completely false. So how could I ever end up with a success story despite that? By standing up for my rights publicly, speaking out honestly, and using the public voice that they bestowed upon me. On Twitter and YouTube, I pulled my top hater skeletons out of their own closets. I engaged in open and private chats after announcing that I would debate anyone willingly, logically discussing my story and how knowledge from my own experiences could help them protect their own children. I've chatted with victims to help them understand why they were victimized, to help them heal. I'm changing the monster. Today, as a known registrant who openly tweets about registry matters, more than 2,000 people follow my account, and multitudes of curiosity seekers over the years have read my tweets. And they've learned a lesson or two. The ultimate success came about due to all the media attention, reading Frank Lindsay's book, and persistent pushing from one of my loved ones. She insisted over and over that I write my autobiography. Initially, I declined. How could I write an entire book? And who the heck would want to read it? But I discovered in interacting with people on Twitter that they were actually curious about my life. Why I would come out as someone who lived on both sides of Me Too. Yes, I was a childhood victim as well. What would lead me to engage in such inappropriate behavior? The concept of writing a book has always been intriguing and very overwhelming. Where would I begin to fill 200 pages? That loved one advised me to start writing down memories, especially those that affected me emotionally. She said I could turn those into chapters later on. So I took her advice, and the stories took on a life of their own. Like an automated jigsaw puzzle, they fell into place. Some needed extra words to bridge a few gaps, but what I ended up with was more than 300 pages that needed a really intense cut down. And with money that came from my job, some eBay sales, and a small loan from my dad, I could hire editors and a designer. The first editor just happened to be a former registrant, note the word former registrant, who's on this panel. Thank you, Yvonne. I titled the book, Thanks for the Infamy, and I plan to sell it on Amazon. As expected, my haters attacked Amazon and that company, which once boasted they would never, ever ban anything, that always published everything. They banned my book. Did I give up? No way. My designer introduced me to another printing house and an ebook seller. I set up shop on Twitter. Since publication, anytime my haters attack me online, I use that publicity to promote my book and explain that if people can get into the mind of someone who would have sex with a minor, they can recognize the warning signs in others and help protect their own children. And while they're reading, they could enjoy some cool Hollywood stories too. Supporters and haters alike have bought Thanks for the Infamy. I will never, ever self-identify as a sex offender. I am a successful survivor of the registry. And if you're watching this right now, you and your loved ones are survivors too. Thank you to my courageous loved ones who've risked ridicule by helping me through rehabilitation and redemption. This includes ACSOL and the entire registrant community. Without you, my post-incarceration success doesn't exist. What did Frank Lindsay write? We're all in this together. To quote Clarence the Angel from It's a Wonderful Life, no man is a failure who has friends. Thanks for the wings. To everyone here, we are all family. We are all friends. That is our success. Thanks for the infamy.
Appreciate that, Marty. Great story.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, you guys, if you want to have the speaker magnified when they're talking, you can click view and then speaker view in the top right corner of your computer screen. And I have no idea where that setting is on a phone. Anyway, so Linda, would you like to go next?
Yes, I will go next. So my name is Melinda. I've been a registrant for 10 years, actually 10 years on the 12th of this year. I'm surprised of how long that time has gone by, but I wanted to start first with like the most important work, right? Because without work, we can't get anything else. Like most of us. I went to GR just to survive. I was placed in housing through parole. And of course, you know, that's only going to last for so long. So I was lucky enough to find a partner in the system in a halfway house that parole put us in. Um, and he helped me find a job. First, it was temp work and, warehouse things. And being a little bit older, I wasn't able to do that. So I fell into telemarketing. I did telemarketing for a long time. I got good at it because for me, it was a do or die. You know, at this point, I didn't really have any other support other than the partner I had. So I got really good at that. And then, of course, things progressed. I was able to get my own housing. First, it was through the community church or the halfway house. I was able to get housing there. And then I found my own apartment with my partner. Now, my partner and I are both registrants. So we were worried about finding housing, but because there was two incomes, he had a good credit score, and you know, we found a place. It's not the high rise in the sky, but it is our own place. We keep to ourselves. We do what we have to do. We pay rent on time, and everything is good. And I want to jump back into work. So I did telemarketing for a while. And then I got sick of that. I wasn't where I wanted to be for most of my time. So I had just started to apply. I applied to everything and anything with the mindset of all I could say is no. And I found success here and there. I found especially with customer service jobs, they just want a body. They're not going to ask you about your background too much. They just want someone in that chair. Now, not being one to give up, which I titled like this little speech of mine, don't give up, but be careful with who you share with. And I didn't give up. Now I'm in a customer service position, yes, but it's a small company where I get to do all kinds of things. Event planning, I'm meeting people from around the world and, a celebrity here and there, which is great. And it was with the mindset of don't give up, don't give up. So I touched on housing. Relationships. I know relationships could be a hard one. Again, I got lucky with that. I found a partner. Like I said, we're both on the registry. And with that, we were both open to why we were incarcerated and why we're on parole. And that was for safety, because we both needed to know what challenges may be faced in the future. So we spoke and we hit it off, and then became the relationship building with family. That took, that took a little bit longer because there was trust. Trust needed to be rebuilt. And over time, I developed a very G-rated version of why I went to prison, because they don't need to know the sort of details. They really don't. And I get to pick and choose which family I interact with for my safety. Just because they're blood doesn't mean that they're safe. And now I have a great relationship with my parents and my sibling and my uncle. It is awesome. I got to celebrate my birthday with them last week, and it just takes time, and know that you're building trust with them back again. And the last thing is stress. Yes, there is stress. The only stress that I have now at this point is around my birthday when I have to register. But I set a reminder on my phone to alleviate some of that stress. And I did have another stressful incident where my picture was plastered all over the elevator of the building I live at. And my first instinct was, oh my God, I have to leave. But I wasn't going to let the cowardness of other people choose how I live. Since that incident was about 2-3 years ago, no other incidents since. And the only stress I guess you would have is, do what you need to do. Work on you. I know that the therapy and all that was not the best, but it did work for me. It helped me reflect on my stuff, and that helps with the stress level. And as long as you're registered and you're doing what you have to do, there should be no more stress, or not as much stress. And that's it. That's really all I have to say. Thank you for letting me be part of this panel. Oh, I cannot. Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh, am I next? Hi, I'm Yvonne. I was a registrant for more than 30 years. This is my story and suggestions to be successful as a registrant. My life flipped upside down after I was incarcerated. When I was released, I felt devastated by the loss of my career, my reputation, my prestige in the community, and my own self-respect. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I didn't give up. I went to school and earned a certificate in computer graphics and Photoshop. I found work as a graphic artist temp, and I was able to survive. I wanted a steady job, so I paid a lawyer. He was a good lawyer to help me get off the registry. He couldn't get me off, but the judge lowered my sentence from a felony to a misdemeanor so that I might get hired full time. Although jobs I had in the past paid more, I finally was hired to be a full-time graphic artist. And I loved the job. I loved my assignments. I liked the commute, and I liked my coworkers. 5 years later, when actually in that company I stayed under the wire, or I didn't let anybody know about myself. I tried to keep to myself as much as possible. But then 5 years later, the company got sold to another business, and I was let go in 2008. I then took a course online and earned a certificate in proofreading. In fact, Marty hired me to proof his book. Where did I put it? Oh yeah, thanks for the infamy. And I really appreciated that. And I really enjoyed reading the book because it opened my eyes to homosexuality, adversity to it in one's own family. See, Marty also set the example for registrants to help one another, to hire them, to let them know about upcoming work and places to live, support them emotionally, and by buying their work, like I bought this book. And what else? Oh, another way to help other registrants is just help change laws that will impact the registrants' lives in positive ways. Since 2008, I've worked as a freelance artist, a painter, and a book cover designer. This past year, I've sold my paintings in a local LA gallery, and I have been asked by a couple of curators to participate in upcoming shows. I've had my poems and articles published in books and online, and I'm hoping to launch my novel, A Tribe's Plea to Montezuma, in late November. I've felt gradually successful for these accomplishments. Eventually, I may write about my story. I wasn't comfortable about writing it before, but Marty and who is it? Lindsay also, Frank Lindsay, their books inspire me to write my own story. This other story is not that way, but there are some things going on in the story that are from my background, influenced from my background. During the past 4 years, I've been of service to a few 12-step programs and to ACSOL. Being of service has helped me to connect with wonderful, kind, intelligent people. At times, I thought of ending my life, but these programs have helped me. I no longer isolate or feel ashamed. I feel as if my life has purpose. As a successful registrant, I comply every year to register. I have nightmares about not doing so, and thus getting a fail to register conviction, but so far I'm good. I support ACSOL, and I'm glad they are teaching me how to help improve registrants' lives. I'm grateful to be of service by writing to California representatives and senators, or going to the Capitol in Sacramento to urge them to support bills that will help registrants, and ask them to decline bills that will be harmful to registrants, their families, and the public. It's empowering to stand up against the negative, irrational, or unconstitutional policies that reject or limit registrants. If registrants need or want advice on getting a job or a place to live, my suggestions would be as follows. 1, appreciate those people who are willing to help. Ask for their help to find a place or to live, or a place to live or to find a job. 2, join groups such as ACSOL's emotional support group, AA, SA, or SA. Any group based on a 12-step program is worthwhile to attend. And you don't have to believe in God. I was an atheist and I still joined anyway. I have my own idea of what God is. Check in with friends out in, check in with the group called Friends Outside in Los Angeles, and they're in Pasadena and Inglewood. 4, volunteer with organizations you feel are worthy of your help. I hear that some organizations will not take registrants. I haven't had that problem. I stay away from organizations that try to help children. 5, assess all of your skills and know your limitations as a registrant. I wrote down 6, if you are able to use a computer, find free online programs that will help you develop skills in the fields of your interest. 7, if you must take a job beneath your station, concentrate on why that job is important to you and others. 8, develop your own job. If you are artistic like me, create art, crafts, furniture, etc., that you can sell online, and then test your ideas and market them. I use Photoshop to create book covers for selfpubbookcovers.com/Yvonne Reese. Actually, it's YVONRZ. I used to average selling 4 covers per month, but now that my competition is worldwide, I only average a cover per month. But I love being creative, and it supplements my income when my covers sell. Becoming successful takes patience, perseverance, and fortitude. It's also helpful to have the right people and organizations in support of one's goals. Those of you here at the conference are doing the right thing. It's important to know our rights, and many of those rights are being violated. If I hadn't learned about ACSOL, I might not have known I could petition to get off the registry. September 3rd of this year, I was terminated from the registry. I realized that if my sentence hadn't changed from a felony to a misdemeanor, I would have been on tier 3 with a lifetime registration instead of tier 2 with a 20-year registration. I already had done 30 years. Recently, I realized what this meant to me. I no longer have to register on my birthday every year. If I want to apply for a job, I will feel easier that someone will not find me online. And although I am happy to live with my mother in a nice neighborhood, if I ever wanted to, I will be able to find an apartment more easily. But for me, the best part of being off the registry is that I can freely go to my grandchildren's graduations upcoming this next year. I'm happier now, and but I realized that there's more to be done. I look forward to the day when the registry in Sorna no longer exists. I imagine that will make you and me even happier. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story, suggestions, and goals. I hope I didn't take too long. And
Thank
who's
you,
up
Ivana.
next?
That was a great share. I think I'm up next. And again, you guys can all ask questions after I do the presentation now. And my name is Roger. I work on the small team that works on the website, send out emails, all that kind of stuff. And then a little thing for you to get on Twitter, that's available too. Information there. I've been doing that a while. I was convicted in 1991, and I spent 5 years in prison. And well, let me first tell you about how I define success. So for me, success is never giving up. That's probably the number one thing. I never know what success I'll have if I don't keep trying and learn from my mistakes, right? And success is realistic expectations. It's not perfection. Because if I have unrealistic expectations, like getting off the registry quickly, I won't on tier 3, and having no problems finding employment or housing, I have had problems, and having lots of money, I don't. That kind of stuff destroys my happiness when I don't get them, and I don't have gratitude if I do get it. Success is taking a day at a time. If I worry about the future, it just drains me emotionally. I can't handle it. And success is being willing to do what I need to do, even if it's uncomfortable. That's pretty important. That gives me emotional growth so I can handle problems better than before. And success is investing in relationships like my ACSOL friends or neighbors and family, being careful, but not trying to live in a hole. If I try and be emotionally self-reliant and isolated, you would think, but the problem is, the rabbit hole, the pull, they'll pull you out by your ears. It just puts me in a downward spiral of depression and paranoia. And I can't control if someone's going to put a sign up or whatever, but I've had very, very good luck with cautiously building friendships. And I followed these principles of success. Number one, take part in ACSOL fully because it gives me hope. It's there to help us succeed, right? Such as getting rid of California residency restrictions, and that made housing easier to get. Getting rid of presence restrictions so I can use libraries and parks. Stopping bad bills that would make my life hell. Fighting bad bills, such as Halloween laws. Chipping away at SORNA, IML, chipping away at the registry, all that stuff. Imagine if ACSOL didn't exist. What we'd be going through now. And the second is, if I don't try, I'm guaranteed to fail. But many times, the problems that I imagine turn out to be pretty overblown by my fears. Sometimes they're even non-existent. By facing fear, I can succeed. If I don't do anything, then I don't. And the third is do what I can do now, not what I wish I could do someday. That way I feel accomplished. Get the stuff done that I need to do. And fourth, to get work in housing, well, I had to be open to new ways of thinking and unexpected opportunities. It wasn't the usual track. Fifth, being self-employed as I am now, that's created opportunity. I really encourage it. I can only be fired one client at a time, and replaced. And six, being open to unusual housing ideas has kept a roof over my head, as I'll mention later. 7, developing relationships gives me that emotional support I need. It lessens the chance of depression and anger. And we have a couple of great emotional support groups read about on our website. Really, they'll help make a whole difference in attitude. 8 is take a day at a time, and he keeps me from getting overwhelmed. Chunk at a time, do what I need to do. And 9, never giving up. That means I can discover opportunities that I didn't think were possible. So let me give you some specific situations where I use these principles to have success in employment, in getting housing, building friendships, and gaining hope for the future. First was parole, because when I was planning for parole, well, I had no resources in my offense. So I applied for parole where my family lived. It was a big step. Housing was a problem because parents lived next to school. So I made an arrangement to live with my grandmother temporarily. And after a couple of months, my parole officer said, you can go get an apartment. So I found one. And back then they didn't check on the registry in the mid-90s. Work was a problem because I knew it would be difficult with a criminal record to go around applying for jobs. There was little demand for my now antiquated high-tech skills. Well, interestingly, I had been studying 3D graphics. Remember Jurassic Park, high-tech back then? Well, I had been studying that in the prison. They had an arts class with a computer and a 3D animation program. I actually sat down and learned it. And so I had high hopes. And when I get out, I started a business doing that. Unfortunately, in the town I was in, it found there's no demand for it in this small town. But hey, at least the business allowed me to be near my family when I'm paroled, because it required that. So I needed a new career. So I looked around and I was thinking, what's the biggest demand? Well, it's websites in the late 1990s. So my existing computer skills were just totally obsolete. So I bought some books. I taught myself, Yvonne mentioned, I taught myself how to make websites. And then I volunteered to make a complex one for a nonprofit organization. And now I had something for my resume I could go. Experience led me to a small job at a little company in Silicon Valley to make their website. And then I applied to work for Microsoft in Silicon Valley. Yeah, they have a branch there. And I didn't think they would hire me, but I just went for it. You know, I got the job. I actually got the job. I hit it just right. So many engineers didn't want to work for them at that time. They all wanted to work for those .com companies. Remember those? It all went out of business. Well, after working for Microsoft for 6 years, an employee saw me on the now easily available Megan's website. They made a big fuss about it. And management forced me out because they isolated me. I couldn't go to company events and that. They dumped huge responsibilities on me. And I probably could have stayed, but I was like, I think I'm gonna find a new direction. So my brother-in-law hired me to run his computer network in his little company. He didn't pay much, but at least it bought me time to plan for my future. This is a funny part about housing is to save money, he let me stay in a small trailer inside a warehouse that he owned. Well, so going from a 6-digit income to low income and going from a townhouse that I owned to a warehouse, that was a pretty big step down, but I was glad to have the time to plan and try out different things. And so since I was a good teacher, I started a business where I tutored senior citizens in computers, because back then they didn't know how to look on the website, you know, Megan's Law. And since I'm a natural communicator, I got a certificate in tech writing. And so I started getting contracts to write documentation. Well, I moved back to Northern California when my mom got cancer. And a friend recommended I look for a low-cost business that I could do locally in this very low-tech town. I took his recommendation, and now I have a little business that has nothing to do with technology, but it's established. And I can do it until I'm able to retire someday. And if my clients, I've had, let's see, 2 clients now, see me on the website and make a big fuss. Well, I have 1,500 clients now, so I can deal with that. There's always new places. All these jobs and all these housing search, I think I found that life was easier when I got to know the people I was near, people I worked with, neighbors, and so on. I didn't immediately run out and tell them I was on the registry. No, very cautious on that. But taking the time to develop those relationships made it more likely that if and when they did see me on the registry, they would see that I was a different person from what they read on there to what I am now. You know, that's the best chance. So it's been a long, winding, unpredictable path to where I am now, but my situation is fairly sustainable. It's not perfect. I think that's an important part to make. I'm not making big salary like I did in Microsoft. I don't have a big house. I don't have that, but I do have employment. I do have housing, and it's livable as long as I don't get those unrealistic expectations in my head. I deal with the way reality is. That, and you can succeed too. You know, if you have that attitude and you never give up, and of course, join ACSOL's fight for justice, and that'll give you hope too. So thank you. And why don't we open it up for questions? So if any of you have a question, press reactions and raise hand, or if you're on the phone, *9, or if you're on an app on your phone, tap the screen, more, and then raise hand. And mention the person that your question is for first. So let's start with Dave. There we go. Go ahead, Dave.
Muted myself. Hi, Roger.
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
And Yvonne, this question is for Roger.
Can you speak just a little louder because your connection is distorted? Yeah, speak a little louder.
Roger, this is for you. How have you dealt with the changes from being high level all the way to where you're at today and gaining customer base and waiting all this time, being patient? That's a long time.
You know, there's one word I can encapsulate that: expectations. When I first paroled, I had these crazy, wild expectations, like, I'll just go back to my old life, get a high-tech job, like I did it, you know, in the 80s, and make a lot of money and all that. No, it was a total learning experience. And I had to adjust my expectations to what reality was at the time. That's hard to do. That is, you know, I'll just say, we all know, built into society, there are prejudices. Being a white male, I had a built-in advantages that I developed. One of my best friends was Black in prison, and he just got out finally after all these years. I totally respect him, and he really educated me as to what it's like, and amazingly similar to what we registrants go through: prejudice, preconceived notions, working harder to get the same thing. And I had to bring myself to that level of reality, and that totally changed my attitude. I felt less pressure. I felt like whenever I had an accomplishment, whenever I was able to succeed in something, I was grateful for what I was able to do, rather than going, well, this isn't good enough. That's the core thing, I think, in all I've done. Never give up. Do what reality says. Move forward. That's how I would say I dealt with it. Thanks. Okay, who else would like to ask a question? And let me know which person. Like, raise hand. Nobody has a question? Look like hands. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for your sharing your stories. I found them very inspirational. I really didn't have a particular question. I did want to take an opportunity, since no one else is speaking, to thank you all for sharing that. And also, particularly Marty and Roger, your experiences of, like, all of y'all really talked about, we have to think outside the box. We have to find sort of roundabout ways to achieve what we need. And another theme I heard was, well, in the 12-step fellowships, we call it sticking with the winners. You know, you find the people who are successful, who are in your same situation, you follow their example, you befriend them, you learn to support each other. And that, my experience, that did more than anything else to encourage me to keep going, because I saw people, and you mentioned, of course, the issue of people of color and people with disabilities, people from the LGBTQ community who experience prejudice. And I have a greater degree of empathy for their situation than I did before I was on the registry. But the other thing is, I found out that sometimes in terms of employment, I really appreciate what y'all shared about volunteer work, internships, all these indirect ways we go about finding work, because that's exactly how I've ended up with a good paying position as a legal assistant with a nonprofit legal aid organization, who not only knows that I'm on the registry, but actually that was a positive factor in the hiring decision, because I have a great deal of empathy for the client base that we work with. And it feels so good to be in an organization that understands that I'm on the registry, and it's like, okay, this is a thing. We have to acknowledge this is there, but we're not going to hold this against this person because their experience and their training outweigh the mistake they made nearly 20 years ago.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
that's a
sharing that.
very important. Yeah, I was just going to say those are very important points. One thing you have to realize is that, yes, indeed, there are going to be some jobs that are going to background check. And if you know in advance that they're going to, bring it up front. Show them honesty and integrity up front and say, look, you know what? I did something bad a long time ago. I have made amends. I've apologized. I've taken accountability. I've gone through therapy. I'm a different person today. And, you know, when somebody offers me a job and gives me that opportunity to have a roof over my head, have steady employment, and be able to take care of myself, it makes me a better person, and it makes you a better person as well. Because if everybody in the world did something like that, society would be so much safer, because we wouldn't be sitting here on the streets, you know, attacking people or stealing or doing anything out of absolute necessity like animals to survive. So, you know, you give me a chance, and I've got more reason than anyone else in this world to show you 150% that I'm the kind of worker that you want, because I have much more to prove.
Thanks, Marty. Okay, Jeff, who's your question for, and what's your question? We have 5 minutes left, so you need to keep these short.
Okay, thank you
Hi,
all.
Jeff.
You did a really great job. This is I'm just becoming involved in ACSOL. I went through 8 years in prison, went through several trials. My case was overturned unanimously by the California Supreme Court. Tried to try me again, and finally I just gave up and I signed a plea deal after turning down 5 plea deals. I got quite an incredible case. Regardless, I have to move forward. I'm 65 years old on retirement. I guess my question to you and all of you, I praise you for what you're doing. I really do. I'm an educator, 2 graduate degrees, and I'm kind of like you. I'm living off the bottom in the sober living house right now. My question is there any type of resource out there, such as, you know, I've looked at felons.com, different websites or anything like that. I know where I have to kind of head for jobs and housing. Is there any type of catch-all place to look, or is it just not exist?
Where do you live?
I live in San Diego.
San Diego. I know there's an organization in Los Angeles called Chrysalis, and then an ACSOL board member, Sherry Harlow, she lives up north. She's a member of an organization that helps find employment for registrants. So I would definitely try those 2 options and see. And also, I mean, any place in San Diego that helps people find jobs, they get paid when they successfully do so. Try them. It can't hurt.
Okay. Well, just to let you know, Department of Rehabilitation is sponsoring me for a paralegal degree. And at my age, I'm going to get my paralegal degree and become an activist. And part of it is based on the inspiration that you people provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And let's see, Rafael, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a question for Yvonne Reese, if I may. I think that I overheard her in her beautiful explanation about her success. At some point, she indicated that she felt suicidal. Did I overheard that wrong?
Yeah, no, a lot of registrants feel suicidal. And I actually, because I was going to the ACSOL emotional support group, that really helped me. It's and I also go to SA, and I have the fellowship there that really supports me and has helped me out, saved my life. Just in a way, they saved my life. I I just have friends. I I don't have as many friends as I used to have before all of this, the arrest happened. But I do have two really good friends, and they support me. But uh, isolation is a problem. Do not isolate. I mean, find people, find groups. This ACSOL emotional support group is a really good one to attend. And I think Marty put something in there about that group where you can get to Alex, and Alex will put you in the group. But just some of these other groups, AA, they're I don't go to AA, but I hear that other people that are registrants find it helpful to go there.
Well, was that though
Just,
directly inflicted by your registrant situation, or were
oh
there?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. It's just the humiliation, the shame, feeling that I'm worthless, especially when I was having problems finding a job. But at one point, I just had to hire a lawyer to see if I could get off the registry, and I was surprised he helped me lower the felony to a misdemeanor, but couldn't get me off the registry. And then later I hired another lawyer to get me off the registry, but I would not recommend him. He's too expensive, and we can do it ourselves. The registrants can petition themselves. I think there's something on the ACSOL, online ACSOL, the website.
the thing that I found peculiar was that you actually mentioned the tendencies right in the middle of a successful development within your book career, within your writing career. You were like mentioning all these things that were happening in your life, and everything was
Yeah.
going great. And then all of a sudden you say, and by the way, I also felt suicidal. It was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, where is this coming from? You know, you're doing so well and you're moving so forward, and then all of a sudden you just drop. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, people say I'm kind of negative, and I kind of look on the negative side, and I even when I shared my speech with Marty and Melinda and Roger, I was a little bit negative. I tried to make it better, but this I've suffered from depression almost all my life, and I have to take medication for that. I was seeing a doctor regularly, a psychiatrist regularly, and I don't have access to that psychiatrist anymore, but I go to these other meetings, and that helps me and inspires me. And it's an up and down journey. I'm also slightly bipolar, and it's an up and down journey. If anyone else wants to get in.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in
Just
here.
one quick
Yeah,
note before you
Melinda
do.
knows about this.
Just one quick note, they're going to be shutting down our room in a second. So before they do, and then you can talk, you can click the triple dots in the bottom right corner of the chat window and save the chat if you want to save any of that information. So, okay, go ahead, Melinda.
So we all know that life is not a straight shot, right? There's a lot of ups and downs, and we may have that cool success.
Oops, it looks like it's starting to shut us down.